Okay, we'll get started. Good day. Hello. Buenos dias. Buenas noches. Buenas tardes. Buenos dias. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. We're going to talk about acting today. Finish talking about period acting styles. And then this lecture, what's going to happen is it's going to go into talking about directing. And then, just to keep you up to date, March 7th, right before spring break, is our second exam. And it will cover everything since the last exam, which means period acting styles, acting, and directing. And then we have spring break. That'll be fun. Man, why you ask me questions like that? It's the 11th through the 14th. Yeah. Okay. When last I left you, we were talking about melodrama. And talking about, we're moving into the 20th century. I forgot to show you something the other day, and I thought about this actually yesterday when I was at the store. One of the things, going back to the Restoration period, one of the things that we have to, as actors, learn to do, and it was part of their lifestyle. In the Restoration period, one of the hot new things for young people to do was tobacco. Tobacco in the 1600s was just entering Europe, and for the wealthy, it was hard to get. It was really expensive. And for the wealthy, it became another way of showing how much money they had if you did snuff. Now and they did snuff. They didn't smoke. Some people smoked it. It was put in a pipe and smoked. But the wealthy did it as snuff, and it's a little different than the skull that you use now. The snuff that they did was really ground up into a powder. A real fine powder, and men would carry it in a little can or a little box, and it was about the size of an Altoid box that we have now, the small ones, and it would rest inside their vest pocket or their coat pocket. And when they did snuff, I always thought this was funny. They would pull out the snuff box, hold it with two fingers, tap the top. And the reason they tap the top would be what? Make sure the snuff all fell down, because stuff's expensive. Also, remember, they're wearing all that white lace. They don't want to get this tobacco stain on their clothes. So they were real careful. They tapped the top. They would open it. They would take out a pinch, close it, put it back in their coat pocket. Now, they either did one of two ways. They either just took it straight like that, or in that little hole in your hand between your thumb and your finger, they would open that up and put the snuff there. Then they would shake their hand. Why? Make sure you get rid of any extra so I don't get that on me. So they would shake their hand, and then they would take it up each nostril. And from what you can read about them doing it is they would take that snuff and then there would be a moment where they get this rush from the nicotine hitting their system, because it's going straight up in the nose, hitting the capillaries and absorbed right in, and they get this real quick rush of the nicotine. And then they'd shake both hands, And it was an insult if they sneezed. That would be really bad at a party. You'd be a bad party foul. Because, again, if you sneezed, you got all this black stuff shooting out of your nose that could get on other people. So they were real careful not to sneeze. They'd fight real hard not to do it. Or they just take it and stick it up and snort it that way, straight in, one thing. But they would snort the tobacco. And it was considered, women didn't do it very often, and if they did, they were being very naughty. And they would not do it out in public. That would be something they would sneak off and get into it. So, but tobacco was a big thing for the wealthy to do. Now, let's get back to the 1800s. I've talked about this guy before. He's important. Francois del Sartre. He will be on the test. Francois del Sartre, again, just to remind you, was a speech teacher. He lived between 1811 and 1871. He was from France, and he is famous for his cataloging of gestures. That's what he's remembered for. He cataloged gestures. And it was Del Sartre who felt that gestures, what we do, whatever that gesture might be, he felt that it was a tie directly to the heart, and therefore it was honest. It came from the heart. It was honest. And as I said before, he watched people in real life reacting to things. And then he drew pictures. He cataloged the gestures that they used to show emotion. This became an acting tool. And actors would be trained in the Del Sartrian method. And they would learn their gestures. And as I said before, if you ever see a silent movie, you'll see actors who are doing the Del Sartre. And it's just overdone. Now, I need to review you. I need to double check if you remember your Del Sartre. So, everyone, ready? Fear. Come on. Just because you sit in the back don't mean I can't see you. Commit. Fear. Hold it. I got to check you. Big eyes. Open that mouth. Okay, that's good. That's pretty good. All right, now, remember, terror is worse than fear. We can't look at what's coming after us. So we're so terrified we have to turn our heads. Ready? Fear. Terror. Excellent. Hold it. Hold it. Hold it. Got to check you. Well, you can do it now.
Which one?
Fear. Terror. Now we're getting it. All right. Now, give me some love. Adoration. Adoration. Oh, come on. Give me the love. Give me the love. We don't have enough love in this world. Adoration. Yeah, come on, man. That's.
I had to yawn.
You had to yawn. That's called sleepy, not adoration. Ready? One more time. Adoration. Give me the love. I don't see hands back there. That's it, baby. Adoration. Good. All right. And remember phlegm? That was for disgust, when you were feeling disgust. He called it phlegm. Okay, good. Good. Del Sartre's pretty funny. Okay. What happens, and we talked about this before, as we moved from the Romantic period, where we want things to be as we see the world as we want it to be, not as it is. We move into Realism. And in Realism, we see the world as it is. So the paintings, the artwork, everything is realistic. We see the world as it is. We don't try to make it any better than it is. We don't try to make it anything different than what it is. This really affects theater. Really affects theater. Because in the Romantic period, we wrote stories that were bigger than life. Melodrama. They were bigger than life. They were huge. Clear villains, clear heroes. Easy to figure out. But life's not that way. Life, you could be a villain one moment, you can be a hero the next. It doesn't matter. And the realistic writers of plays began to think about social issues. This is important. They thought about social issues, and they wanted to write plays that exposed not necessarily evil, but things that were wrong in the world. These things are bad. And what they wanted was audiences would go see these plays, see what life was really like for people, social problems, and then want to make it better. That was the idea behind a lot of these plays. We wanted to make life better for people by showing what life was really like. So there were plays about the poor. There were plays about food, for example. There was one play, and you don't need to know the title of it, but I think it's kind of funny to go back and see about it. But it was about butcher shops. It was about meat products. And they wanted to show, the playwright wanted to show that there was a problem with the distribution of food. And they built a set that was a butcher shop. It was for real. And they actually hung dead carcasses of animals on the set. And flies were on them and all kinds of stuff. And the audience came in and they could smell the putrid meat. Now, this play went as far as what they called not just realism, but naturalism. It was so real, it was gross. And audiences didn't like it. It didn't go very well. I mean, you wouldn't want to go to a play and smell rotten meat. That wouldn't be fun. So, naturalism, when it got too real, kind of went away. But realism is still with us. It is still with us. And it tends to be plays about regular people, plays about problems in society, plays about families. That's what they talked about. There's two playwrights I want you to know. One is Ibsen. The other one is Chekhov, Anton Chekhov. Let's see which one. Heinrich Ibsen was Swedish. And he wrote a number of realistic plays. The one I'm going to tell you a little bit about is Enemy of the People. Have I talked about that at all in here? Enemy of the People. Remember that. Ibsen wrote Enemy of the People. And I'm not going to make you spell Heinrich Ibsen, but Ibsen. Remember Ibsen, I-B-S-E-N. Ibsen's Enemy of the People is a great example of realistic plays. In Enemy of the People, you have a little town, and they make their living in the town by having baths. It's kind of like the little town over here in North Carolina of Hot Springs, or is it Warm Springs or Hot Springs? Hot Springs. It's similar to that. In other words, they have these natural, hot, smelly water. And people get in the hot baths because they think it's going to make them more healthy. And people would come, according to the play, from all over Europe to come to these hot baths in this little town to get into the water and to get healthy. And the whole economy of the town is built around those hot baths, around that water. And you know, they have lots of they're making a lot of money off of a lot of people coming there to get healthy. Well, what happens is the town doctor discovers that people are getting sick. And he makes a discovery that everyone who's gotten sick has been in the water. And what he discovers is there's some kind of bacteria that has gotten into the water, and that's why the people are getting ill. So he goes to the city council, and he says, we're going to have to close down the baths until we can get this cleaned up. Guess what the city fathers tell him? Not just no, hell no. It'll kill the economy. We can't close the baths down. Just shut up about it and let's move on. Well, he does the right thing. He tries to tell the people that the water's bad. The city fathers come down on him, make him a villain, say he's lying, and by the end of the play, he's ruined. His career is ruined, nobody likes him, and they continue running the baths. Now, that's not a heroic drama. It's not melodrama. But it is realistic drama. You can read stories like this all the time. There was one the other day about people dumping nuclear waste into a stream. Oh, we didn't know. Gee, it's killing the fish. Don't close this down. See where I'm getting at? But that's why, that's why he's the enemy of the people. Because he wants to close the baths down, and in turn, they think he's going to hurt the town. Chekhov is Russian. Anton Chekhov wrote a number of realistic plays. One of my favorites of his is a play called Uncle Vanya. Chekhov, Uncle Vanya, V-A-N-Y-A. Chekhov's plays tend to be about the wealthy aristocrats in Russia in the late 1800s, because that's when he was writing his plays. And what he tries to do in all his plays is show how these aristocrats are worthless. They're landowners, they're lazy, they don't do work, they don't produce anything on the land, and they use people terribly. And that's in every one of his plays. In Uncle Vanya, you have a family. They're pretty messed up. They keep, all they do is keep wanting to go to, they keep talking about going to Moscow. If only we could go to Moscow, we could have a good life. And meanwhile, they just hang around. They really don't do anything to their land. Their forests are being destroyed. They don't care. And what we know that what's going to happen is they're going to lose their wealth by the end of the play. They're going downhill. It's a sick family, and that's what a lot of his plays are about. All right. I'm going to back up just a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. As modern theater, as we start to get to the end of the 19th century, and we start to get into the 20th century in realism, there are different people who are trying to find a more believable acting style, more real acting style that will fit these new plays, that will fit realism. One guy I want you to know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, George II, and he is the Duke of Saxe-Meiningen. M-E-I-N-I-N-G-E-N. George II, Duke of Saxe-Meiningen. George II is an aristocrat. He was a duke. He was not in theater. But he loved the theater. He loved plays. He loved going to plays. But what he didn't like was the actor-manager system of the 1800s. Now, we've talked about the actor-managers, right? Booth and Forrest and all those guys. He didn't like that. He didn't like the actor-managers. He didn't like the idea of a star running the show because he felt that it didn't work in the new plays, the new kinds of things that were going on. So he comes up with this really crazy concept, the director. Up until George II, there had never been a director in theater. Plays had either been run by playwrights, the actors themselves, the actor managers. But now, George II creates a theater company. They're called the Meiningen Players. And he becomes the first director. He's the first person. He sits out, he watches the shows, and he basically tells everyone what to do. He has a concept, an idea of how the play should be performed. And everything in the play ties into that concept. For the first time, a theater company hired designers who designed specifically for that play. That had not been done before. What had happened prior to this is designers just built whatever they wanted. And then the actors acted on it. But George II said, no, I'm going to tell you what I want. And you'll design that. Costumes. It was the first time we had a costumer who designed costumes for the entire cast. Up until then, people wore whatever they owned. Actors had a variety of clothes. They just put on whatever they wanted for the play. But now, the characters all wore costumes that fit the play they were in. And they were designed by somebody. His other really, for that time, radical idea, as he was creating this company, is, say we were doing a play and you guys were in the company, you could star in one play and then be the servant in the next. You could be the star in that one and then not be in the next one. His company played a variety of roles. They were all good. There was no star. So each time, depending on the play, there would be different people in the starring roles. This idea of ensemble, that we were all working together. That was new. That was brand new. Okay. Now, George II takes his theater company to tour Europe. And as they traveled around Europe, audiences went berserk. They had never seen theater that good. And it just, I mean, you can go back and read newspaper articles. They couldn't believe how good this company was. One of the people who saw them perform is who we're going to be talking about a lot. Constantine Stanislavski. Sometimes you'll see this spelled with a K, Constantine, and sometimes this will be a Y instead of an I, but I've always done it with an I. Stanislavski. Constantine Stanislavski. He is probably the most important theater person in the history of theater. And I'll tell you why. Stanislavski saw the Saxmonian players, and he made a decision that they were right, that what they were doing, he wanted to create in Russia. So he goes back to Moscow, where he's from, and he creates a theater company. And they work at the Moscow Arts Theater. The Moscow Arts Theater. He follows George II's idea, no stars. He'll have an ensemble. Everyone will play different roles depending on the show. One day you could be the star, the next day you could be the walk-on. And then he does something else, pretty radical. He creates an acting school, and he ties it to his theater. And the reason he creates this acting school is to train people in realistic acting style so they can perform in these plays. He wanted to break the old habits, the cliches that had been brought about by Sartre and by the actor managers. He no longer wanted these movements. He wanted it to be real. He wanted people to act as they do in real life. And he creates a system of acting over a number of years to train people to how to act. So people would learn to act, and then they would act in his company. And then a lot of them traveled all over as performers. And it was the new realistic acting style. Stanislavski, I didn't say this, was born in 1863. I'm not going to ask that on a test. And he would die in 1938. What's amazing is what he was teaching during the time he was an adult is still being taught today in acting classes all over the world. This is what we learn. This is what actors learn. They learn the Stanislavski system, or some form of it. Okay. Oh. You. Okay. Any questions about this? We're all cool? All right. Now I'm going to start talking about Stanislavski's system. And I'm going to be giving you some terms. Any term I write up here, I want you to know. One of the first ideas that Stanislavski had to train actors, he called the method of physical actions. He got this idea from a psychologist who was doing some new experiments at the time. And it was a gentleman who was working with dogs. Pavlov. What was Pavlov's experiment? I heard it. Classical conditioning, exactly. And what did he do?
When the dog put in the bell, he'd ring the bell, and then the dog would come and salivate the food, and then he would not present the food the next time and ring the bell, and the dog would salivate, thinking that he would have food ready.
So he was basically training the dog, ring the bell, give him food, dog, blah, 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 ring the bell, give the food, dog, blah, 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 blah. Eventually you just ring the bell and the dog salivas. We still train animals that way. Hell, we still train children that way. Pick up your clothes, get a piece of candy, you're happy. Pick up your clothes, get a piece of candy, you're happy. Finally, you just pick up your clothes and your parents go, good boy. I mean, we train kids that way. Classical conditioning. Stanislavski said if it works on dogs, it'll work on actors. Piece of cake. And what he thought was this. Every action, every true action, if you commit to a true action, you will cause true emotion. A true physical action will trigger true emotion. In other words, this is a tie between the psychological or the physiological and the emotional. And it works. How many of you in here have ever played football? Good, number of you. Let me ask you this. When you played, how did people, right before they went out on the field, what do they do this is American football we're talking about. What do they do in the locker room right before they come out? They get hyped up. How? Music. They play music. They do other stuff too. What else do they do? Huh? I can't hear you. Turn up. Interpret.
Turn up. You got to play to know.
I did play, but I didn't use the term.
They turn up. That's how they do. They just get hyped.
Get hyped. How do we get hyped?
Scream.
Scream.
A lot of cursing.
A lot of cursing. What else? Huh?
Motivational speech.
Yeah, I don't care about the motivational speech. Coach gives that. But they do something else right before they come out. They're screaming. And while they're screaming, what do? They chant. Huh? They hit stuff. They beat the hell out of things. They start pounding on lockers. They start hitting lockers. They start jumping up and down, screaming, hollering, hitting shit, and just getting mad as hell. They go up to the other players, wham, wham, hit the shoulder pads, ah, bam, bam, I want some meat, ah. They're getting up. That's what they do. If you've never been in a locker room, that's what they do. And then, they have to hold the doors back because they're, we went out of this damn place, we're going to kick some ass, and they open the doors, and they come running out. God help a cheerleader if they get in the way. They'll knock them, get out of the damn way. See you tomorrow night. I want to make myself mad, just start pounding something. Just start slamming your fist into something. And if you hit it hard enough, without breaking your hand, but if you hit it hard enough and you mean it when you hit it, and you add a yell to it or a curse, you will get mad. You will trigger anger. Correct physical action triggers the correct emotional response. Works. So an actor who is trying to be believable doesn't want to go and not mean it. They have to make the action tie to what they're saying. This is where we get to the Pavlov. We tie the action to what we're saying and we feel the emotion. Okay. I'm gonna go on that a little bit more. Some of you may not have played football, so you think I'm being silly. I'm not. Have you ever made yourself depressed? Be honest. Yeah. Almost everybody does, especially in college. You don't have to be emo to just do it. If I want to make myself depressed, I can physically do it. And I'll share a story with you. I had a friend, a roommate in college, who this girl broke up with him, and we lived in this apartment. And David decided he was really depressed over this breakup, and for about 3 weeks, he would come home from class, he would sit down on the sofa, he would put on a Rod McEwen album. Now, I don't know if you know who Rod McEwen is, but he was a sappy poet back in the 1960s and 70s. And he made a lot of albums. He made a lot of money with really horrible poems. And they were all sad. And they would be stuff like, I walked down the beach. I heard a bird. The wind blew. I thought of you. And he would, but David would put on these Rod McEwen albums. And he would sit in the couch. And if I do this much longer, I'm going to start crying. Because what I'm doing is, as my body does this, it's sending a message to the brain. Going, we're sad. Feeling sad. We're doing sad movements here. We're sad. Get depressed. Hurry up. Get depressed. And people do this all the damn time. You may say you don't. You come home, you're all upset about something. Even add that noise. And you will get depressed. You'll make yourself depressed. Simulation, but still, it's depressed. If you want to get happy, what do? Huh? If I want to get happy, what do? Drink some liquor? Could, maybe. What do? What's the opposite of what I just did? Dancing. Hell yeah. I come up. I get tall. I get straight. I'm feeling good. Hey, I'm happy. I'm a happy guy. Steve Martin used to do a whole routine about being a happy guy. I'm so happy. It's true. If you pick yourself up and you stand tall and you bounce around, do a little dancing, you start feeling better about yourself. You start feeling happy. Again, muscles are sending messages to the brain, says, get happy. Tell you another story. I'm going to share this is a funny story. It's true, though. I worked for a year at Busch Gardens in Florida, the theme park. And it was a wild job. For a while, I was the voice of Busch Gardens. I made tapes. And there were things like, let's give a warm round of applause to our trainer, Vito Dominici, his lovely assistants, Pam and Leslie, and his elephants, Corina and Rosie. And they would record me saying these things, and they played them in the shows. I was also, as part of that job, I would work backstage at several of the theaters, either running lights, running sound, and sometimes I got to be backstage in the Stanleyville Amphitheater, which is their big theater in the theme park, where they have a lot of animal acts and a lot of specialty acts. It's a variety show that they put on there. And one time, I got to be the curtain puller for the acts. And what they would do is, they would have an announcer come out, he would tell some jokes, and then he would introduce the act, and they would come out and perform. One of the acts that was performing there at the time was a husband and wife team called the Willems. The Willems were from Czechoslovakia. And they were advertised as the world's fastest jugglers. And they were at Busch Gardens for about a year performing. And they had a pretty amazing act. I mean, she was a tiny little woman. He was a pretty big guy. One of the things that they did, which I thought was kind of cool, is she stood on his head, not his shoulders. She stood on his head, and they juggled pins back and forth. It was a very high energy act. They did a lot of things, and it was fast. They juggled very, very fast. Okay, now, the Willems, they were crazy. I've never seen a husband and wife who fought as much as they did. And when they would get angry backstage, they would talk Czechoslovakian. So none of us knew what they were saying. We had an idea what they were saying, but we didn't know for sure. And, I mean, they got in knockdown, drag-out fights backstage. And this one time that I was running curtain, I'm standing, getting ready to pull the curtain, and the Willems are there, the stage is out here. I'm getting ready to pull the curtain, and they come walking out, and all of a sudden, he goes, and she's, and they're just going at it. I'm waiting for them to pull out knives or guns and start just doing each other off. And I'm sitting here with the curtain as they're fighting with one another, just going at it. And all of a sudden, the guy that was the MC got to the part, he always did the same spiel to introduce them. We're very proud today to have from Czechoslovakia, and both of them are, they just stopped. They listened. They looked at each other, and they started going, happy, 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 and they opened the curtain, and hey, and out they went. And they juggled. They were happy. They finished this thing. Goodbye, we love you. I love you. The curtain shut. They went right back into their fight. Point is, they got happy just by going, happy, 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 happy. The audience didn't know. I don't think they knew they were using the method of physical actions. But they were. That's what it is. Any questions about that? I'm getting over bronchitis, so if I fall over, just leave me laying here and you can go early. Okay. All right. Now, as I said, Stanislavski had all kinds of ways to train actors to find truth on stage. Another way, he called it the magic if. The magic if. The magic if. The actor, this is the definition I want. The actor asks the question, what if I were this person in this situation? What if I were this person in this situation? How would I act? What if I were this person in this situation? How would I act? The magic if gets the actor in touch with his or her creativity, their imagination, and allows the character to come out of that imagination. You did this as a kid when you played. Children do this. They imagine that they are what they are playing. And for very short, children are great because for a very short period of time, they really believe the situation that they're playing. Now, they have short attention spans, so it doesn't last very long. But if you've ever watched a kid play, when they're really involved in that play, they are totally there. My daughter, this was last semester, we were driving in the car, and all of a sudden she started crying in the back seat. And she was weeping. And I was, Kennedy, what is wrong, honey? What's going on? Oh, I'm playing. And I looked back, and she had a couple dolls. And they had been talking to one another, I guess. And one of them got upset and started crying. And she was weeping, tears are just running down her face. And she was playing with that doll. And it just like that. Oh, I'm playing. I'll tell you, kids' imaginations. You know, if they decide they're, whatever it is, they're firemen, they're, whatever they are, they play it. And they mean it. But for short periods of time. But this is what they do. They imagine what it would be like to do whatever it is. My little boy right now is all into Skylanders. And man, he's talking monsters and and he gets into it. He'll talk to the game when he's playing. Like they're real people. Because he lets his imagination go, lets the imagination go, become part of it. Now, the reason we need this as actors is we play characters that are not us. Sometimes we play characters we would never be. The guy that played Freddy Krueger is not a killer. He's not a monster. You have to imagine, what if? What if I were this person? What would I do? How would I act? How would I talk? What would I be like? And then we create the character around that. Questions or thoughts about that? It works really well for some actors. Some actors need this, some actors need that, some actors use a variety of everything. Another term that Stanislavski used was called given circumstance. Given circumstance. Given circumstance is everything we know about a character. Everything we know about a character. The more we know about a character, about their life, about who they are, the easier it is to play them. Because you begin to think like the character. So every character that an actor plays, they give that character a biography. They give them a history. You find this information in the script. As you read the script, characters talk about your character, or things that your character says or does tells you a lot about who they are. So that's the first place we look. We also get information from research. Research becomes very important to actors, especially if we're playing in other time periods or other places. We look it up. We find out what life is like. Say if I am playing Uncle Vanya, what was life like in the 1800s in Russia? And we study those people, study what that's about. Again, the more I know, the easier it is to play the character. We learn a lot also in this from the setting, because it's our environment. Our environment affects us. What is my set going to look like? What is that world going to be like? And then imagine myself in that world. And then we also get information from our costumes. You'll understand this. Do you change emotionally when you wear different kinds of clothes? We are different people depending on how we dress. If you get all dressed up to go out to a club, you feel differently than you do if you're wearing your sweats. You just do. So clothing, costumes, can have a great effect on an actor's emotion, how they feel about themselves. Now this is also important when we talk about directing. Don't we judge people by what they look like? And if you say no, you're lying. But if you sat out here in campus and people walk by, you'd watch them and go, geek, jock, sorority girl. And you do it by the way they're dressed, by what they look like. So there's a psychological effect. An actor takes that into consideration and then creates that character. How am I supposed to be looked at by others? How do people perceive my character? And then making that come to life. I found it interesting. I have almost always when I teach an acting class, people will tell me, oh, I never judge people. And then you show them a picture of somebody and they go, oh yeah, that guy, he must go to Comic-Con. He looks like a real geek to me. You don't know who they are. It's just how they're dressed. It's just how they look. See what I'm getting at? I think I'm losing some of you. Okay. All right. A few other terms I want you to know. Every play has a super objective. Now we've talked about this before, but it comes from Stanislavski. The super objective is the main idea of the play. The main idea of the play. What does the play mean? What's it about? Not the story, but it has a meaning. What should we learn when we watch this play? All plays have a super objective. If I'm an actor, I want to know that. And then I have to figure out how my character fits into telling this story, this message to an audience. So actors have through lines. Through lines, or through line, is the character's objective for the entire play. It's what they want. The character's objective for the entire play. What they want. I always remember it. Some people get this confused with this. but I remember through line because it takes my character through the play. It's the line that takes me through the play. Now, we're real big in theater and in terms of acting with Stanislavski in talking about objectives. These objectives tie into this through line. My character wants something overall. That's the through line. And then I have smaller objectives that my character must accomplish to get here, to get what I want overall. We refer to these small objectives as beats. And sometimes they're called steps. Beats or steps. They're small objectives that we have to accomplish to reach our overall objective or through line. Every time the character's objective changes, it's a new beat. Now, to explain that a little bit better, whether you know the play or not, but in the tragedy of Macbeth, Shakespeare, I think, was trying to say, in terms of the super objective, I think he was trying to say that too much ambition or misguided ambition leads to destruction. Because you got a guy that's pretty good, he's a nice guy, good general, but he wants ultimate power. And he does everything he can to get ultimate power throughout the play. And the idea is that he has so much ambition that he doesn't see life as he should, and he ends up destroying himself and his family because of it, and his country because of it. So, in Macbeth, the super objective of the play, too much ambition or misguided ambition leads to destruction. That's not going to be a test question. Through line would be ultimate power. I want ultimate power if I'm playing the character of Macbeth. He wants to be the most powerful person in the world, at least in the country. And he spends the entire play trying to do this. Throughout the play, he has little objectives, little beats to get here. He gets information from the witches, and he learns that to be king, which he thinks is ultimate power, he has to kill the king that's now living. He does. But it's not enough just to kill that king, because the king has children. So he makes it look like they are guilty. Beat, beat. You see where I'm going with this? And then the witches told him that Banquo's sons will be king. Well, he goes, it's no good if I'm king if my children can't be kings. So, kill Banquo's son. And Banquo. Now that's where he messes up, because he only kills the dad, doesn't kill the son. The son gets away. Beat, beat, beat. I have to do this, then I have to do this, then I have to do this, and I have to do this. And it leads throughout the play. Takes me through the play. Okay. Does that make sense? Understand? Any questions about that? Yeah.
I'm confused. What's the difference between through line and super?
The super objective is the meaning of the play. It's the message the playwright wants us to learn from watching the play. Every play, every movie has a message, even silly movies. Sometimes the message is laugh, have a good time. But they all have messages. This deals with the character. It's the character's main objective for the play. It's what they want most, what they want to achieve. Okay. Did that help? Any other questions about that? I want you to understand these things because they will be on the test. Okay. How we get what we want are called tactics. Tactics are how we get what we want. Zundai. Okay. Everybody in this room is good at working tactics. You do it all the time. If you want something from somebody, you will do things to get what you want. And if one thing doesn't work, you'll try something else. I have to go back and tell another kid's story. My little boy, he loves dum-dums. Little suckers, little round suckers. He loves dum-dums. He's a dum-dum addict. He'll do anything for a dum-dum. And he'll come to me, he'll say, this will be like when he first wakes up. Daddy, can I have a dum-dum? No. You can't have a dum-dum. It's too early in the morning. You can't have that. Daddy, I love you. Can't have a dum-dum. I want a dum-dum. Crying will not get you anything. I'm sorry, Daddy. You're so smart. Tactic, 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 tactic. And in a play, characters either get what they want or they don't. It doesn't matter. They keep trying. Or it wouldn't be interesting. The play wouldn't be interesting if they didn't. If we walked out at the beginning of the play and Macbeth says, I want ultimate power, and they go, yeah, you can have it. Good night. It's not a very interesting play. I remember high school. Of course, it was back, I was with Fred Flintstone and Barney and those guys. But when I was in high school, tactics, high school kids are great at it. You want to borrow the car? Dad, can I borrow the car to go to the library? I've got to study. No, you can't have the car. I guess you just want me to fail, not make it into college. You can't have the car. Other kids got cars. I mean, tactic, 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 tactic. How I get what I want. Actors often are not given this in the script. They have to come up with it. Now, there are lines in the script, but how we say the lines, how we make those real, is a matter of interpretation. It's the tactics. What these tactics often do is allow us to see the subtext of a play. Subtext. Subtext is the meaning underneath the line. The meaning underneath the line. Okay? This comes into how I say the line. All right. Now, let me give you an example. Say you have a neighbor. They come over to your house. They walk up to the door and they go, can I borrow some sugar? What are they asking for? Sugar. That's the easy one. The line is, can I have some sugar? Can I have some sugar? Different meaning. Subtext. Subtext. Audiences come to plays to see subtext because they can read the text at home. Any play that you go see, you could get a copy of that play and read it, but you won't get the same feeling out of it because you won't have the actors interpreting those lines and playing those tactics, showing the subtext of what the line really means. Now you can imagine it, but watching an actor do it, that's what makes a play interesting. Thoughts about that or questions? Does that make sense? Can I have some sugar? Okay, cool. I'm going to give you one more definition, and then I'll let you go. Obstacles. Obstacles are the things that get in the way, of the character getting what he or she wants. They keep the character from getting what he or she wants. They're in the way. All plays are written with obstacles in them. And if the obstacles are hard enough, it makes the actor work harder as the character to get whatever he or she wants. Don't go too quick. I'm not done yet. Obstacles cause clash. Clash. Clash is interesting. I want something, something's keeping me from get it, I get mad, I work to get it, I work harder, I work harder, I work harder, clash. If everybody in a play gets along, it's not a good play. There has to be opposing forces. With that said, now you can pack your stuff. See you later. Bye-bye. Aloha.